Hi guys, and welcome back to the latest episode of GTA Fancast on the Wolves Fancast YouTube channel with me, Gully. I'll be reviewing the 0-0 draw against Leicester, a much more positive performance from Wolves, talking about how the midfield kind of got their act together this time and what we saw a lot more of in terms of defensive solidity for a start, and how we can possibly still get a little bit more out of our forwards as well. So first, ticking the box obviously for Nuno every week is a clean sheet, and we obviously delivered on that front against Leicester. Most pertinently though, the midfield was at it, and regardless of shape, tactics, anything, there was just an increased level of intensity from everyone on the pitch, led by Neves and Moutinho, that was really key to stopping Leicester from playing. They're a side with a lot of confidence running through them at the moment, good run of form. But you can see, if I just lay out this dashboard here, that there's a lot of activity going on in the centre of the pitch where Neves and Moutinho were really marshalling that part of the pitch. And to be fair to them, they stepped it up massively compared to Arsenal. When you have a look at how often they were going to press, how often they pressed successfully as well. Just that increased level of intensity brought about a better performance, 100%, and that has nothing to do with tactics or shape or anything like that. That is just something that can be a little bit infectious, with the rest of the team. Give everyone a little bit of a G up when you're seeing people going into tackles and making tackles, and, playing on the front foot. I think Johnny makes a big difference in that regard. He's very much a front foot defender, very intense when he goes and closes men down, very quick over the first few yards as well. And it's such a good thing to see him back. Obviously, he came off at half time, so they don't want to overdo it with him. But absolutely going to make sure we shore that side up 100%. Obviously, we went back to the back five this time around, and if we just show a couple of clips as well, just to highlight what we were doing well against Leicester. When the ball came out wide into the full backs, he had the option of the wing back being able to go and press really high up against the full back, rather than when with the four, they're much more tucked in narrowly. And when you do that, there isn't really a pass on down the line, because you're forcing him either backwards or inside, and then you've got Moutinho and Neves really kind of absolutely hammering into the ball in when it's coming into that part of the pitch. And Leicester, to be fair to them, they put the ball at risk, so they give you the opportunity to go and make those tackles, and they are pretty good at stopping you from counter-attacking. Although there were a few occasions, obviously, where we succeeded, and Pedro Neto and Traore did a really good job in that regard. Kind of each having a half to themselves in terms of the way they played. But it was just really, good to see that Moutinho and Neves were able to get that snap into their game, to get onto the ball and play those nice direct passes into Neto and Traore and give them a chance to go and break at Leicester, which essentially is what we need to happen if we're going to play this shape. You can't play this way and then not have players who are willing to take people on. And you could see straight away that Neto and Traore, they seem to have a lot of confidence running through them in this game, and provided a really, really good threat to Leicester, and provided some really good chances as well. And perhaps we should have taken all 3 points on this occasion. Just to delve a little bit deeper onto one of the clips that I took away from this game as well. This actually led to the Traore block shot after some excellent work from Neto. But from the defensive point of view, and I'll make use of the board as well, it showed how the shape really kind of gave us that opportunity to springboard our attacks, but really stop Leicester in a good part of the pitch, rather than letting them allow them to get into towards that penalty area as well, which with the four seems to be happening quite a lot. And then you're forced to make bad decisions around the penalty area, and you start giving away penalties and making rash challenges, etc, etc. But you can see here that when Ricardo gets the ball into his feet, not much on down the flank, as Johnny's so tight to him, and he obviously plays the ball inside, links up quite well with the Iheanacho, to be fair to him. But if I kind of just take you through it on the board now as well, you can see here, ball gets played into Iheanacho. Now, he follows the pass, but really you've got João Moutinho here, who on this occasion, because we're so compact, isn't out the game. Cody is allowed to get really nice and tight. Kilman's very tight to his man as well. And obviously, once the ball goes back into Ricardo Pereira, Neves is able to then go and pounce. He's not necessarily doing what he would have been doing with the back four, which is more of a screening job and making sure that pass doesn't get into Iheanacho in the first place. He's able to react to kind of whatever's going on around him because of that extra kind of centre half that's in here. You've obviously got Semedo who can quite obviously sweep round on the cover on anything that comes over to the other flank. And, just everyone clearly felt a little bit more sure of themselves in whatever jobs they were doing. And if you chuck that in with a little bit more intensity, which we could have just added to our game when we played with the back four, it's probably more necessary when you play with that less cover at the back. That would have brought up performance levels to like tenfold, I think. And you saw straight away that then we go into the attack, and Neto obviously went and created a really good opportunity for Traoré, but it just makes you feel a hell of a lot better when you're seeing them winning the ball back in those kind of areas. And we're going to move on to the forward areas now. And obviously we created a chance on that occasion, but it took a hell of a lot of work to do that. And I'll explain why Willian Jose was such a peripheral figure in this game on this occasion. Now, for the most part, I think pretty much everyone had a good game against Leicester, with the obvious exception of Willian Jose, hauled off after an hour for Fabio Silva, which I think partly isn't really his fault. I think he's got certain characteristics that obviously we've seen so far that will bring a lot to the team. He's strong, he's physical, he's mature and experienced, and he uses the ball pretty well when he gets to him. But the other thing that I think was quite obvious to see since he's come to the club is that he likes to play quite quickly. He's not someone who's going to hold on to the ball for 2 or 3 seconds to allow the team to come and join him in attack and build up the play a little bit. He needs players in closer proximity to kind of bounce off and play little wall passes and link up with. Whereas Raul Jimenez was more of someone who you could rely on to kind of hold on to the ball for 3 or 4 seconds at a time sometimes, and just jink his way away from a challenge just to relieve a bit of pressure, and then play with the players who would eventually kind of come up and join him in attack. And what I'm finding at the moment, I think, is that the 3 guys that are playing up front, they're very much playing as individuals. So when you get the opportunity, like I say, we're winning the ball in these kind of areas of the pitch to actually try and build something. The ball will go into Neto, and then it's a case of Neto going on a run up the left flank, or as an example, Traoré going on a run down the right flank. And then you've got Jose, who's in a bit of a catch-22 situation. Obviously, Neto and Traoré aren't going to win their battles every single time. They're not going to take on every man every single time, although they did a pretty good job of it against Leicester. So then he's in a kind of catch-22 of, well, do I just go and hit the box and wait for the cross to come in, or does my teammate need me to help him out and be a passing option so he doesn't get stuck into trouble and lose the ball? That's kind of limitation with this system. You can see that the distances between the 3 forwards players can be very, very big, and it doesn't help with the fact that Neto and Traoré are both playing on their natural size. They're naturally drawn to kind of playing on the flanks and the touchline. And we didn't really have much of an outlet from wing back, especially down the left hand side. Johnny just coming back into it obviously wasn't going to be 100% at it for his time on the pitch, and then Hervé not obviously playing in his natural position as well. So that is something that can be worked on. And Semedo and Traoré don't appear to have much of a relationship. I think the idea there is just that we allow Traoré to kind of take on 2 men at a time just because he can, and you don't have those little 1-2s and those give and goes that you would have with Doherty, who's then has to get into the box and stuff. So it's an interesting one, and it just kind of bore out with the statistics that Willian Jose was such a peripheral figure in that game. Least touches, the passes that were intended for him weren't reaching him, and just felt a little bit like positive start he'd made, but he could have been involved a little bit more. And I think we need to try and make that happen, because when he gets the ball, he uses it pretty efficiently. He's a tidy footballer, and he's pretty smart with his decision making. So I'd like to see us get a little bit more out of him and link up with those guys. Maybe there's an idea in switching the two. Obviously the opposite flank, so they can play a bit narrower, and naturally they'll come inside a little bit more, play a little bit more 1-2s, and etc. But for the most part, we still could have come away winning that game, frankly. We still created some really good opportunities. So you can't necessarily, decide that, the plan didn't work. It was just a case of the final touch on a couple of chances in the box. So I think this is obviously going to be the way we're going to go for the next couple of weeks at least. Southampton, the next 2 games, very good opportunity against a team who are stuttering themselves. To build another, confidence boosting performance, get some results, big game to kind of get through to a FA Cup quarter final in the week. So want to try and take advantage of that, given how our league position this season isn't really likely to get us anywhere. So I'd like to see us go out and build on this performance. We were really, really good against Leicester for probably 80-90% of our play. So it's not too far off from going back to that kind of first season in the Nuno, where we were really efficient in winning the ball back in these areas, getting our attackers onto the ball. But we just need that Jota and Jimenez kind of partnership to develop now with the players that we obviously have at our disposal at the moment. But looking forward to seeing how we get on against Southampton, and I'll speak to you after those 2 games this week.